Yes.
All right. So y'all are both able to get on Canvas on y'all's. Okay, I guess. Um, Now I want y'all to. I want to see if y'all can get into the Teams. I sent y'all a link uh, to y'all's email, and you can get in.
Yes.
So it won't let you get into the yeah.
You can send it to my Gmail.
Huh?
You can send it to my Gmail.
Okay. You got in, Mackenzie? All right.
I didn't get a
Where
message.
would I
I just put up my one. Well, my phone is also on silent. Look. Can you see the red? Today too.
A ghost?
Oh, it has to be
Something.
because do you believe in ghosts?
I'm starting to believe in aliens too.
They might be. Yes. Yes, Mom. I believe in you. And I see the reflections. In what? You didn't finish your work.
All right, I just now sent it. Hope I wrote it right.
Yes, I have it.
Okay, great. I'll just wait for you to get in.
Yes. Your dad is there today? Yes. Why'd you stay here? No. No, 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 no. And then I knew after like 2 hours. And then I did that extra hour. I got a whole room. Ah, what? Yeah, that's what I thought about it. And thought about it.
All right, y'all both in. Y'all good? All right. So basically, whenever we log in tomorrow, it'll be about 9 o'clock. You won't have to come in. It'll be online, and it's gonna be pretty much a lecture and question and I'll go over if I have to some short answers or whatever. Um, but at least you'll be home. You know.
Can you record the one for tomorrow, please?
Can I what?
Please record the session.
Oh yeah, I try to record each session.
I'm going to be out of the house by like 12 p.m.
Okay.
Oh, where you going? Volunteer. Oh,
So yes, I try to record it on a daily. So what else? Y'all have any questions up to this point right now? Chapter one, you're pretty much done and getting through it. Well, you're done. You get through it.
no, I did not finish.
So let me open that one real quick. Let me get this. So as far as to study for chapter one, it's going to be matching, all these matching, multiple choice. I'm not going to have y'all memorizing the fill in the blank. And let's see what else. There's another one.
Oh, is it the matching on page 1? Or the matching on
It's going to be all the matching,
all the matching?
all the matching, all the multiple choice. Yeah, even on page 4, up to that, these matchings on the medications here. So all the matching and multiple choice. I won't do true and false. I won't do the fill in the blank. And I'm just gonna pull straight from the worksheet. So it's just basically memorization. And that will be on Tuesday, in the afternoon session. We'll, just in case y'all have to study, it's up to y'all. Unless y'all are ready to take it, then I'll give it to y'all. But it'll be towards the end of the day, where once you're done, you can go ahead and leave after that. And I gave you the sheets for chapter 16. Uh, Again, it's just over the STEM and the drug class. So, and that will be on Wednesday in the afternoon session. The quiz for that. All right.
The quiz for chapter 16 is
The sheet that I gave you yesterday, I think. Yeah. So it's just going to just be these categories. It's going to be matching. So you'll just have to match the stems. All right. Let's get through chapter 2.
I guess which one is it? Did you shave? Did you do your hair? Is it okay if I write while you talk?
If you would.
Write while you talk?
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem. I have no problem with that. That keeps you ahead. Just stuff that I'll really point out. I'll probably write on the board and stuff like that too. So that's why I got that recording there. All right, so we'll start on the second part of chapter 2. This is dealing with controlled substances, more on the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and more on the scheduled medications. Learning objectives, describe the proper handling of controlled substances and explain the necessary forms of regulations used for controlled substances. Discuss the following related to drug monographs. List the basic information contained in a drug monograph. Um, we usually print out the drug monograph for the patient, but that's just a mini or a condensed version of what's stated on the monographs for the that come with the bottle. Explain the purpose of box warnings and med guides. This is known as a med guide, actually. List and explain the 5 pregnancy categories established by the FDA. So we kind of talked about that. Discuss the following related to prescription guidelines. List who can prescribe medications and medical devices. Describe prescription orders and prescription labels. And perform the function of verifying a DEA number. So a lot of the times, if we have a new doctor or whatnot, we want to make sure, and or if we're kind of questioning the prescription, especially a controlled medication, we can verify the doctor's DEA number just to make sure that they are valid. And you'll learn how to do all that too. We'll describe special prescribing programs and explain the purpose of risk management programs for prescription drugs. Explain the verification process for internet pharmacies. Explain the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which is also known as OSHA, guidelines as they pertain to pharmacy. A lot of that is dealing with a hospital setting, making sure that they're in compliance. The pharmacy is in compliance. Explain the purpose of the Joint Commission and explain why pharmacy technicians must be knowledgeable about the law when performing non-discretionary duties and discuss the differences between morals and ethics. All right, so controlled substances, commonly known as narcotics and are addictive. Narcotics are derived from opium or opium-like substances, so it's like the synthetic version. Opium comes from the poppy seed plant and has analgesic effects. Analgesic is mainly dealing with pain and also affects mood and behavior. Opioids such as codeine and morphine are substances created from opium. Each type of narcotic is assigned a rating, depends on its addictive and abuse potential. So let's start on page 31, ratings of scheduled controlled substances. The letter C, meaning controlled substance, is used in addition to Roman numerals to indicate the addictiveness and abuse potential of controlled substances. In 1970, Congress established 5 levels of control based on the potential for abuse. The strongest level in terms of abuse potential, pages here, C1, C1 drugs. These are drugs. These drugs have been determined to have a high potential for abuse and to have no acceptable medical purpose. They also are deemed unsafe for use under medical supervision. This category includes such drugs as D-lysergic acid diethyl, diethyl, diethylamide, also known as LSD, and heroin. Pharmacies do not stock drugs in Controlled One class because they do not have any medicinal use in the United States. Therefore, physicians cannot prescribe Control One drugs for their patients. All medicinal controlled substances are placed in the following four categories. You got C2, which is Control 2, C3, C4, and C5. Table 2.3 shows scheduled types of medications and abuse potential for each level of controlled substances. So if you look at 2.3 on page 237, on page 37, you got your controlled ones, which are LSD, cocaine, peyote, heroin, and in some states, marijuana. Potential for abuse, drugs that have no accepted medical use in the United States and have very high abuse potential. So these drugs are not prescribed by doctors unless, of course, marijuana. That one is a debate, every state seems like, and we'll see what the country does with that one. Control 2. These are the most potent forms of opiate drugs for pain and for ADD. So you got meperidine, you got oxycodone, hydromorphones, methylphenidate. Become familiar with these. Um, Usually, we have to have a triplicate. That's a different form of a prescription. And let me see if they have a picture of one here. They don't. So, anyways, whenever you um, are prescribed a C2 medication, the doctor will give you it's a bigger form, has more information on it, and the pharmacy keeps track of all this, all that, all the paperwork, all the prescriptions, whatnot. As far as control 2 medications cannot be refilled because they are have high potential for abuse. So each time that you want more, you have to go back to the doctor to get a new prescription, or triplicate is what they call it. Control 3s through 5 are you're able to refill these medications up to 5 times within 6 months. I believe that's, unless I got it backwards. They should be, you can at least have 5 refills within 6 months. After the 6 months from the date that the prescription was written, then you'll probably have to get a new prescription. All right. Let me go back down here to page 36. Tech alert. Effective October 6, 2014, hydrocodone combination products are considered Schedule 2 under the Controlled Substance Act. This change by the DEA from Schedule 3 means that stricter Schedule 2 controls and sanctions now apply to these products. So they, because of the high abuse, and it has opiate or synthetic opiate ingredients in it, so they moved it up to a Control 2 medication. Individual states establish rules concerning controlled substances, such as storage and record keeping. Scheduled C5 medications, referred to as exempt controlled substances, may be kept OTC in some states because of their low potential for abuse. So some states might have that coding with guaifenesin. Guaifenesin is an expectorant which brings out the phlegm from your lungs. You've seen the commercial with what's the brand name to it? Mucinex. Mucinex has that little green phlegm So it brings out all the phlegm. That's what guaifenesin is. Codeine again is for pain or to soothe coughing. However, even for exempt controlled substances, specific rules govern the quantity kept on hand and the records that must be retained by the pharmacy when these substances are purchased by consumers. Many states require C2 drugs to be kept before filling in locked storage areas because of their high potential for abuse. So, for the most part, these are locked because you know, to make sure just in case the pharmacy is broken into, and I've heard of quite a few pharmacies being broken into. Um, in Big Spring, when I used to work over there, there was a pharmacy broken into. The first thing they went after was the locked drawer. I don't know if they got into it or not, but they know where to find the controlled, the real potent medication. The U.S. Attorney General has the authority to decide under which schedule a drug should be placed. The decision is made after careful consideration of the scientific findings and recommendations from various authorities on the dependency potential for each agent. Some drugs may be labeled under two different schedules because the dose may alter the dependency of the drug. Sometimes controlled substances can be reevaluated. For example, dronabinol, brand name is Marinol, previously was classified as a C2 drug, but now is a C3 drug. In contrast, certain illegal street drugs are used primarily for procedures in hospitals. For example, topical cocaine is used locally to stop bleeding and provide anesthesia for suturing. So we have dispensed cocaine in hospitals, and they usually come in an IV form or a liquid form. Either, like you said, it's topical, where they can lay it in or numb the area. Cannabis legality under the Controlled Substance Act of 1970, the possession of cannabis is illegal and is categorized as Schedule One substance. Each state, however, can determine recreational and medical use policies individually. This is very controversial and varies widely from state to state. The medical use of cannabis is legal in 33 states currently and approved recreationally in 11. Cannabidiol. Pharmacies now sell cannabidiol, CBD, which is in an oil-derived form of cannabis plant. It is available in oils, creams, and even gummies. The use vary for treatment of pain, asthma, and epilepsy, migraines, and lung disease. And all this has is the CBD ingredient from the uh, cannabis plant. It doesn't have the THC where the psychoactive part of the plant. It does not have that, or it has very small amounts of it. Tamper-proof prescriptions. Many states have changed to a new type of prescription for controlled substances. These new prescriptions have up to 8 different tamper-proof security marks on them. These features were designed to protect prescribers' intended order from forgery and fraud. Several features eliminate the usefulness of photocopying and prescription order. The prescription forms can be ordered with any or all of the features. The DEA must approve the printer company that prints the new prescriptions, but no specific format has been established because each state may adopt its own features, colors, or size. All right. Um, the individual features of these tamper-proof forms are listed on box 2.6. Let's see if that is a controlled. That seems like a controlled C2 triplicate. It's been a while since I've seen one of those. All right. Registration and requirements for maintaining narcotics. The DEA uses three main registration forms in the regulation of controlled substances. Only Form 224 is needed by the pharmacy to dispense controlled substances. So there's different types of forms that the DEA has as required uh, for the pharmacy to function by law. Um, Form 224 allows for distribution of narcotics. And then it lists different other forms here. A list of form numbers is issued by the DEA along with additional requirements. To manufacture or distribute controlled substances, 225. Manufacture or distribute. Let me change this word to sell. Because this one's got distribute and manufacture. So this is actually where they make it. To manage a controlled substance treatment program or compound controlled substances, you have to have a Form 363. So I'm assuming most mental health facilities will have a Form 363 because there's certain narcotics that we have to use. I'm going to go ahead and say hospitals too, because we're dealing with the opiates and whatnot. So Form 363 was to manage a controlled substance treatment program. And or compound controlled substances. So I'm pretty sure hospitals, some compounding pharmacies. To dispense controlled substances, a Form 224. So we just got that one. Let's see. It must be renewed every 3 years using a Form 224A. So the renewal 224A, that's just for the renewal of the 224 in order for us to sell narcotics. To order or transfer Schedule 2 substances, a Form 222. We got Form 222. So to order or return controlled substances. This must be done by the receiving registrant, which is usually the buyer. To the registrant transferring the drugs, a final count of the drugs must be completed on the day of transfer. No copy needs to be sent to the DEA, but a copy should be kept on file for 2 years for DEA inspection. So they need a copy of that 222 just to keep for the DEA. Authorization to destroy damaged, outdated, or unwanted controlled substances. 41, Form 41. So authorization to destroy controlled substances. Hospitals have this because if you're a nurse, you're gonna destroy what kind of excess amount that you have, or you're supposed to. Retail pharmacies can request this form for the DEA only once a year. Hospitals may request a blank destruction permission form, which allows them to destroy a controlled substance multiple times throughout the year. For retail pharmacies, a letter must be sent to the DEA for approval along with completion of Form 41 at least 2 weeks before destruction. The request letter must contain the names of at least 2 people who will witness the destruction and proposed date and method of destruction. The disposal of the scheduled drug or drugs must be witnessed by licensed physician, pharmacist, registered nurse, RN, or a law enforcement officer. Signed copies of Form 41 must then be forwarded to the DEA. Retail pharmacies that want to engage in wholesale distribution of bulk quantities of drugs containing pseudoephedrine, phenylpropanolamine, I can't say that right, or ephedrine must register with DEA Form 510. So DEA Form 510 deals with pseudoephedrine. I'm just going to put PSE because that's what short form is. So pseudoephedrine distribution and sale. And for loss or theft of a controlled substance, a Form 106 must be filled out. And if they have to fill one of these out and nobody's broken in, so then they're going to look internally to see who's been stealing narcotics or whatnot. And I've known some people that have, even a nurse, she wouldn't, she would get it was pretty much IVs, like hydromorphone, um, what else? Fentanyl, those hardcore opiate drugs. And she's supposed to destroy them. Um, and she's supposed to have somebody watch her destroy them. But she wasn't going by the book. She ended up keeping a lot or pulling out the excess or the extra amount that was left in that was not used, and she would keep it for herself. And finally, they kind of they sometimes test the controlled substance in the pharmacy. So they went ahead and tested a substance, and they tested it again, and by the third time, they got that it was not a controlled substance. That she was drawing out the controlled substance, putting it in her pocket, but inputting like sterile water or something like that back into the. It's like a vial or a long. It's like a long pin, and say this is the puncture. They put the needle in there, and they'll just put some sterile water in there. So whenever the pharmacist receives it back, um, they could test it to make sure that there is no they didn't swap it. So they did that 3 times, and asked they had talked to the lady, to the nurse, and they gave her a drug test, and she was positive for opiates. So it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. She ended up getting fired. Um, I've also had I would say some friends, but I could say coworkers that would take the wrong route and steal narcotics. They really keep track of control two medications. Um, Not so much the control 3 through 5, but control two medications they really keep track of. So you don't want to mess with any of that stuff. You'll see these questions on the forms. So just make sure that you kind of memorize or keep that back of your head there. Refilling controlled substances. The DEA guidelines for C2 substances allow physicians to write up to 3 separate prescriptions at one time for multiple drugs to be filled sequentially over 90 days. The date of each subsequent prescription must be written in on the order, and the prescription cannot be filled before that date. Each state's board of pharmacy may implement additional guidelines that control the amount of controlled substances that can be refilled. Most states limit refills of scheduled C3 through C5 drugs to a maximum of 5 times or within 6 months from the original order. So you're only going to get 5 refills for prescriptions or controlled medications that are controlled 3 through 5. You will not ever get refills for a controlled 2 medication. You always have to get a new script. In addition, the amount ordered on the refills may not exceed the original order. The length of time for keeping records may also vary by state, but a record must be kept of controlled substance refills showing the pharmacist's initials and the date the refill was dispensed. Ordering controlled substances. A pharmacy has 2 ways to obtain Schedule 2 controlled substances form from a distributor: electronic or paper filing of a DEA Form 222. Form 222 must be signed by the pharmacist who signed Form 224, or a person who has been legally assigned power of attorney by the pharmacist. This triplicate form must be completed only with a pen, a typewriter, or an indelible pencil. The top copy or copy 1 and the middle DEA copy or copy 2 within the carbon paper are sent to the supplier or manufacturer by the pharmacy. A lot of times they do this online now, but back in the days we have to fill out a form, which looks a lot like page 39 on the bottom, 2.7. The pharmacy retains the bottom copy when the medication is shipped to the pharmacy. The middle copy is forwarded to the DEA to prove that the medication has been properly received. When the pharmacy receives the controlled substances, the pharmacist compares the pharmacy copies of Form 222 with the invoice and signs and dates both. The invoice and the form are stapled together and retained for 2 years. If any error is made, the form becomes invalid, but must be retained for reference. So, say you messed up on this form, you cannot send it. But you still have to keep it in the filing cabinet. Um, Therefore, the pharmacy cannot erase mistakes or throw away the form. When returning any C2 drugs, the pharmacy must have the manufacturer or wholesaler fill out the same form, the Form 222, to request the controlled substance. The pharmacy then is the provider who retains the top copy and sends the middle copy to the DEA. Other controlled substances, C3, C4, and C5, are ordered on normal invoice forms. So you won't need a triplicate, or there's no special way for control threes through fives. But invoices must be filed and retained for possible DEA or state Board of Pharmacy inspection. These should be kept separate from other non-scheduled drugs for easy retrieval. Once scheduled drugs have been received, the invoice forms for Schedule 3 through 5 must be kept for no less than 2 years. So take note, under the authority of a Controlled Substance Act of 1970, the Controlled Substances Ordering Systems now allows electronic filing of DEA Form 222, which is just basically online. This allows more stock to be ordered than is possible using the paper form. Using the paper form, you can only order 10 medications. But when you do it online, you can order as much as you want. A smaller amount of controlled stock usually must be kept at the pharmacy because ordering is quicker and stock can be ordered more often. All right, let's move forward here. So we talked about ratings, scheduled, tamper-proof prescriptions. Talked about all the DEA forms. Talked about refilling. So now we're ordering controlled substances. On to record keeping. Three methods of filing controlled substances. In some states, the Board of Pharmacy may require a specific method. Controlled substances must be logged out of pharmacy stock before being issued. Double check the remaining stock. So anytime we have to count controlled substances, mainly controlled twos, we really want to double count to make sure that we have the correct amount in the to dispense to the patient. Um, we do double count controlled threes and fours because those are controlled medications as well. They don't keep track or a strict track for controlled threes through fives as they do controlled twos because they're less addicting, so they say. Um, narcotic inventory. Narcotics are at high risk for drug diversion. Perpetual inventory, pharmacists must validate all counts done by a technician, and discrepancies are investigated by DEA. So narcotics are at high risk for drug diversion and must be inventoried differently from normal non-scheduled drugs. The pharmacy maintains a perpetual inventory of these medications. This means that once the inventory is started, it does not end. Instead, it continues until the drug is no longer stocked. The basic principle is to identify an initial count of all controlled substances and to monitor the count as drugs are dispensed by subtracting the amount taken out of the stock. This also involves adding to the count all drugs received by the pharmacy and placed into stock. And we'll have a little lab on how to do all that. This can be done either in pen or in a ledger or through use of software. The type of ledger or software used differs between community and institutional pharmacies. Although basic information is required, um, although the technician may be responsible for keeping track of all transactions, the pharmacist must validate all counts. In addition, overall periodic counts are done weekly or monthly by pharmacists. The DEA requires an inventory to be taken every 2 years. That's something that you need to remember. DEA requires an inventory to be taken every 2 years. The DEA does not require a copy of the inventory taken. Any discrepancies that are identified must be investigated and explained. All right.
Even Schedule B has to have a prescription.
Schedule 3.
No. Five.
Fine. In some states, like here, we have to have a prescription. Some states, like more in the northern areas, they Schedule 5. Some Schedule 5 drugs are OTC, where they can get them, even if they have codeine in it, but they have very small amounts of codeine. On the page 41, it gives you kind of a log of how they keep track of the medications, especially controlled. Um, it gives you what they've used and when they pulled it and counted and they subtracted the count, or if they had to order it again, they'll put it back in the stock and increase the count. But it's all regulated. There's really no, unless a certain amount has not been entered into the books. Um, it's all regulated. DA will eventually catch you if they haven't caught the people uh, trying to divert certain controlled medications. Reverse distributor. Oh, a couple of things to remember. You can only refill control 3 through 4. I'm gonna say even through 5 because Texas. Well, no, there's no restrictions. So control 3 and 4, you can only refill 5 times within 6 months.
There's a question on here that says, one of the true or false
hmm
is there are no federal or state laws that require a prescription to be dispensed from Schedule 5 drugs and dispensing without a prescription.
I would say that they don't require a prescription.
Yes, it says there's no federal or state laws that
Let me pull that real quick. What number is that?
require true or false numbers on page 8.
If there are no federal or state laws that require a prescription to dispense, Schedule 5. That's a true statement. So there's no restrictions. Yeah, basically, so here in Texas, we do have a state law in regards to that. So I'm assuming federal law. Well, when we look at laws, we have to look at the most strict law to go by, first of all. So so Texas has that law that we have to have a prescription for it, and federal law saying that it doesn't. We have to go by what Texas says because that's a more strict law. Yeah, because a lot of the states have their own laws in regards to different medications. But yeah, that's a true statement there. Let's see. So say we didn't have the correct amount of a controlled substance. For C3s to C5s, we must have the remainder dispensed within 6 months. Say they might be either on back order or shorthanded or whatnot. C2s must have remainder dispensed within 72 hours. So, like this past year, Adderall, all like ADD meds were like they were shorted. They weren't distributing as much, and they were just back ordered. They didn't have much production for the demand, but they have to say they didn't have the correct amount. They have to dispense the remainder amount within 72 hours for controlled 2 medications. Transfer of prescriptions, controlled 2s through 5s may be transferred only once. So any controlled medication can be transferred only once. Some states require Schedule 5 drugs to be dispensed by a pharmacist. Controlled substance C2 through C5 may be mailed as long as contents are not identified on packaging. So we can mail controlled substances, they just cannot be identified. All right. We're going to jump to drug monographs on page 43. So drug monographs contain in the this is contained in the physician's desk reference or PDR in doctor's office, and facts and comparisons in the pharmacy. Facts and comparisons is just a large book that gives the list of medications, what to mix with, how to mix it, what it contradicts with, what other medications it contradicts with, stability of the medication, just in case we got to compound it. So that's what facts and comparisons is. Includes description, clinical pharmacology, indications and usage, contraindications, warnings, precautions, drug abuse and dependence, adverse reactions, dosage, and how supplied. So that's all the information that's in there. The physician's desk reference or PDR, I think both of them are even online now. Box warnings, also called black box warnings. We'll read about that here in just a second. And med guides, printouts require for certain medications. And again, med guides are just a short summary of what the monograph is telling you all from medications. So let's look at on page 44, box warnings. A box warning is encased in a bold border. Manufacturer's insert. Oh no, this has one. So open this, shows y'all how much information it has. It has a box warning. See, a box warning is encased in a bold border in the manufacturer's insert. Healthcare professionals often refer to the box warning as a black box. Don't see one on here. I'll let y'all look at this. It does give certain types of what contraindications do not take with certain amounts. This medication is meloxicam, which is an NSAID, I believe. And it gives you all types of information as far as what the drug is and the adverse reaction. And all this information is condensed something for the patient so that they take stuff like this, like do not take in other NSAIDs right before heart surgery. So I mean, gives you a lot of important information. This one didn't have a black box warning though on it. But again, it's enclosed in a dark uh, black box. This type of warning is required on medication and other products that carry a high risk potential for the consumer. The label indicates the proper use of a drug to avoid or decrease the possibility of serious or life threatening side effects. Warnings can be very specific or may include an entire class of drugs, such as antidepressants. Antidepressants have been found to cause an increase in suicidal behavior in adolescents, especially those with prior psychiatric disorders. Box 2.7, Part A, presents examples of box warnings. Okay, so there's examples there. Um, Part B presents a sample list of agents with box warnings.
Why do they put blocks warnings even though no one?
What's that?
Why do they put blocks warnings even though no one is at
Because they didn't see
Um, I know I kind of want to look at them.
I mean,
I mean,
other people
like
like
just
You don't look at them?
no,
you
it's just
you just confident or trust the pharmacist with what it is. Yeah, but you'll probably get counseled by the pharmacist as to the the dangers of certain medications. So he'll probably tell you, and that's what they're supposed to do.
that's better because I wouldn't read it.
Just here, okay.
Yeah.
One pill can kill. Remember that.
Yeah, no. I even
Okay, good thing.
Yeah, I would look at it because what if you're taking the wrong pill or something? You know?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I barely get sick, so I don't
Yeah,
know. But like some people,
yeah. I mean, I can understand because you trust, the people who get it, or you trust the pharmacist, trust your parents, they give it to you. So, yeah, I understand. Just pop the pill. Med guides are paper handouts that are available with many prescription medicines, which that's what I just showed you. Many medications with box warnings also come with med guides. The guides address issues specific to particular drugs and drug classes, and they contain FDA approved information that can help patients avoid serious adverse events. A med guide is distributed by the pharmacy with each prescription and each prescription refill because the information for the patient may change frequently. So it could change. So it's good to kind of know what you're taking.
no.
So I would look at box 2.7, parts A and B. Um, Certain drugs that give box warnings are on the bottom of there on page 46. And just keep those in mind. I'm pretty sure, I think you got questions on those as well. The FDA requires that med guides be issued with certain prescribed drugs and biological products when the agency has determined the following. Certain information is necessary to prevent serious adverse effects. The patient should be informed about a known serious side effect of a product. Patient adherence to directions for the use of a product is essential to the product's effectiveness. All right, on to pregnancy categories. So we kind of touched on this either yesterday or the day before. Pregnant woman's fetus is susceptible to effects of drugs taken by the mother. The drug may be transmitted to the fetus during its developmental stages, causing birth defects. The FDA established 5 pregnancy categories that indicate the potential of a drug to cause fetal defects. The categories are based on the ratio of risk to benefits. These categories are set for each drug based on extensive clinical trials by the manufacturer. Both the prescriber and the pharmacist must counsel the patient to make sure the patient understands the risk involved before taking the agent. So again, we're going to go over these. Category A is adequate and well-controlled studies have failed to demonstrate a risk to the fetus in the first trimester of pregnancy, and there's no evidence of risk in later trimesters. So category A, all is okay to take. Category B, animal reproduction studies have failed to demonstrate risk of the fetus, but there are no adequate and well-controlled studies in pregnant women. So they tested on animals, but not in women. So that's probably not okay to take. Animal reproduction studies have shown, or category C, reproduction studies have shown an adverse effect on fetus, and there are no adequate and well-controlled studies in humans, but potential benefits may warrant use of the drug in pregnant women despite potential risks. So category C is kind of on borderline, I would say. Um, if the risk outweigh, no, if the benefits outweigh the risk, then it's going to be okay to take. Category D, there is a positive evidence of human fetal risk based on adverse reaction. Data from investigational or marketing experience or studies in humans. A potential benefits may warrant use of the drug in pregnant women despite potential risks. So there are some benefits which are minuscule. It's up to the doctor on that part. Category X, studies in animals or humans have demonstrated fetal abnormalities, and or there is positive evidence of human fetal risk based on adverse reaction data from investigational or marketing experience. The risks involved in use of the drug in pregnant women clearly outweigh the potential benefits. So, for the most part, category X, we will not dispense to the pregnant patient. Prescription regulation. Who can prescribe? FDA and DEA have no authority to determine prescribers. Prescribers are licensed by their individual state boards, which it would be Texas State Board here. Standard practitioners in all 50 states are physicians, surgeons, doctors of osteopathy, dentists, podiatrists, veterinarians, and optometrists. The FDA and DEA have no authority in determining prescribers. Physicians and other medical prescribers are licensed by their individual state boards. The scope of practice is determined by the person's degree. For example, podiatrist, a physician who treats conditions of the feet, can prescribe medications and devices that are used in treating foot conditions. A podiatrist would not and should not prescribe heart medication. The same is true for dentists, veterinarians, and optometrists, because each is an expert in their specialty and not in others. Prescribers can vary from state to state, therefore the specific laws governing them are not covered. However, more states allow professionals such as a nurse, practitioner, and a physician assistant to prescribe a limited number of medications and or devices. These practitioners are regulated at the state level. Some are required to be supervised by a physician who assume responsibility for their prescribing methods and scope of knowledge. In all 50 states, nurse practitioners are allowed to prescribe medications independently. Florida, however, does not allow nurse practitioners or physician's assistants to prescribe controlled substances. An optometrist cannot prescribe controlled substances. In 5 states, each state also regulates whether it will accept out-of-state prescriptions written by practitioners who are not licensed in the state. Individuals who can prescribe controlled drugs must be registered as a mid-level practitioner with the DEA with the Form 224. Yeah, we got that one up there. In some states, pharmacists are granted prescribing privilege under a collaborative drug therapy management agreement. This agreement is between a physician and a pharmacist and entails allowing the pharmacist to initiate, modify, and continue medication regimens, order laboratory tests, and perform patient assessments under a defined protocol. Montana, New Mexico, and North Carolina give pharmacists extended authority. 5 other states, California, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Washington, allow pharmacists to obtain DEA numbers. Who can receive a prescription? Let's see. Pharmacy technicians take in prescriptions, interpret them, and fill them. Technicians cannot take phone orders. Pharmacists give the final check, take verbal telephone orders, and transfer prescriptions to another pharmacy. So clearly, a pharmacy technician takes in prescription, enters them, and fills them. The pharmacist is responsible for interpreting and reviewing the prescription before dispensing the medication. Many states prohibit pharmacy technicians from taking phone orders for legend drugs, which are just prescription drugs. All states require pharmacists to authorize a phone-in prescription for a controlled substance per DEA regulations. Often prescriptions are called in, faxed, or transmitted by a computer from the physician's office by the physician or the nurse. Pharmacists must translate many verbal orders into written form. In addition, if a patient wants a prescription transferred to another pharmacy, this transaction must be done between licensed pharmacists or pharmacy intern under the supervision of a pharmacist. Pharmacy intern also can receive prescriptions by phone. So if you're a pharmacy intern or a pharmacist, you can receive a prescription by phone and also can transfer medications and receive transfers. Take note, as of 2017, 17 states allow qualified technicians to accept verbal prescriptions called in by a physician or their representatives. I'm not sure if Texas is on that. Prescription labels and prescription orders. The information on a prescription label differs from a prescription order. Two necessary components are pharmacy information and patient information. Special labeling sometimes is required because of adverse effects or the possibility of teratogenicity to an unborn fetus. Labels include the name, the address, and phone number of the pharmacy, the name of the prescriber and the date the prescription was filled, and the prescription number and the cautions. That's on the prescription label that's wrapped around the bottle. Let's jump to repackaging. Repackaging medications taken from bulk packages and placed into blister packs or unit dosing devices must include drug name, the strength of the dosage form, the manufacturer and lot number, and expiration date. So everything that you need here is you're just going to be looking at the bottle that you're. Let's see if I have a bubble pack. one after another. So anyways, we individually separate and bubble pack individually a tablet in each bubble pack. And the computer will enter the drug name, will enter the strength. So this is meloxicam. We'll enter the 7.5 milligrams. The dosage form is known as what is it like a tablet, capsule. So those are different types of dosage forms. We'll learn in chapter 5. This one's a tablet, so that's what I'll put there. 7.5 tablet. Manufacturer and lot number. So I see the manufacturer Cipla, and lot numbers are usually in the back with the expiration date. So I'll put in this lot number, which the lot number is important because whenever there's drug recalls, they'll have this certain lot number. There, of course, there's many different lot numbers. They have the lot numbers because they made a certain batch on a certain date, which gives them a certain lot number for each of that batch. So say that there's a drug recall for Mobic, we would look. It would have a sheet, and if it has the same lot number, then we would have to pull it from the shelves, put it somewhere where nobody's can get it, and call different patients because there's a drug recall on it. So we make sure not to dispense any of the medications with that same lot number. And then you have to put your expiration date as well. And then you can either seal it. There's a heat press that'll seal it, or there's sometimes just um, sticky gum that'll seal it. And you'll just put your label on top of the bubble pack. Drug Enforcement Administration verification. This is pretty important to know. Say you come across a forged prescription. And I know that you have a lab on over it as well. Drug Enforcement Administration verification. All prescribers must be registered with the DEA to write prescriptions for controlled substances. Prescribers are given a 9-character identification code, which is different for each prescriber. The first 2 characters are letters, A or B, followed by the first letter of the prescriber's last name. There are more letters than that. There's A, B, F, or M, and there's sometimes X, I believe. So the first letter of the DEA, DEA verification. First letter is going to be A, B, F, M, and sometimes X. You'll see X. So that's the first thing you want to make sure of. It's one of those letters. The next, let me see. It's followed by the prescriber's last name. So say the prescriber's Garcia. Second letter. So the prescriber is Garcia. So the first letter would be B-A-G, or B-G, or F-G, or M-G, or X-G. And these are just different prescribers. One would be a doctor. One could be a dentist, podiatrist, whatever. So that's the first two things you have to look at. Make sure it's A, B, F, M, or X, and then make sure that it's followed by the doctor's last name, first initial of the last name. And then there's the next 7 digits are composed of numbers added together. So let's look at the example here on page 49. Um, in the box, procedure 2.1, it says Dr. Tom Johnson writes an order for Tylenol number 3. The physician's DEA number is AJ1234892. All right, so first thing we want to look at is one of these letters. So, yeah, that's okay. What's the name of the doctor, or the last name is Dr. Johnston. So that's okay because Jay's is in his last initial. So now we have to figure out what these numbers are for. So first we want to use this formula. We're going to first add the first, third, and fifth numbers in the DA set. So we're going to add 1 plus 3 plus 8, 11, 12. So that's 12. And then continue the formulas. Second, add the second, fourth, and sixth numbers, and then multiply that by 2. So we're going to add 2 plus 4 plus 9. So that's 6, 15. So we have to multiply that by 2. So that's 30. So we're going to have 12 plus 30. So then we're going to add these two, so it gives us 42. And we're looking at this last number only. If this last number matches this last number right here, then the prescription is valid. Again, pretty easy. So we'll first add the first, third, fifth numbers, add the odd first, third, and fifth. Yeah, I got 15. Added the second for the evens, second, fourth, and sixth numbers, and multiply that by 2. And then add the 2 there, and look at the last number there. If it matches this, then you're good. And of course, you got to make sure that these letters are good as well. Yeah. And it's also on page 49. Okay. We're going to jump to special prescribing programs. Programs for opioid maintenance, methadone maintenance treatment, MMT, or that's abbreviation for methadone maintenance treatment, and Suboxone and Subutex. Suboxone is just something to wean you off of that opiate addiction. Risk management programs for prescription drugs. You got the iPledge program, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. Drug abuse and monitoring programs. As of 2016, there's more than 45 states are participating in the program. So on to special prescribing programs, page 50. Programs for opioid maintenance, methadone maintenance treatment. I'm pretty sure with this new addition of the mental health facility, we're going to be having that type of treatment. Also, for the most part, of course, depression and stuff like that, but high addictive, uh, highly addicted people that are um, addicted to opiates. I'm pretty sure that that facility will be open once they get that mental health facility going. Methadone is a Schedule II controlled substance and is used to treat individuals addicted to opiates. Patients are to receive specialized treatment while taking this medication. No more than 1 day's supply may be filled by a pharmacy, and the medication must be taken in the physician's office or drug treatment center. Other brand names for methadone include Dolophine and Methadose. Although methadone is more commonly used to treat opioid addiction, it also can be prescribed by physicians with appropriate DEA registration as an analgesic to treat chronic pain and alleviate pain in cancer patients. Suboxone and buprenorphine, which are sublingual tablets, are Schedule 3 controlled substances that require special consent forms to be completed by the patient. Although most treatments are supervised either in physician's office or in a clinical setting, a pharmacy may receive orders for small amounts to be delivered to a physician's office or to be picked up by a family member of the patient. Under federal law, prescribers must meet criteria, certain criteria. When the prescriber has met all conditions, the DEA issues him or her a special number with an X. So that's where the X comes in on those letters, um, identifying the individual as a qualified prescriber. Risk management programs for prescription drugs. The Food and Drug Administration Amendments Act of 2007 gave the FDA the authority to require a risk evaluation and mitigation strategy uh, from manufacturers to ensure that the benefits of a drug or biological product outweigh its risks. Certain drugs are placed in a restricted status for use. iPledge program under the Food and Drug Administration. The FDA regulates isotretinoin, formerly branded as Accutane and marketed now as Amnestine, Clarivis, Myoricin, and Absorica. Those are all brand names for isotretinoin. Under a special program called iPledge, because of the severe adverse effects of the drug, it causes birth defects. Therefore, it is important that female users understand that they must take precautions to avoid becoming pregnant. In addition, possible side effects of suicidal thoughts and signs of depression are now associated with this drug. This agent requires a box warning. iPledge is a computer-based risk management program designed to increase awareness of dangers of isotretinoin in an effort to eliminate fetal exposure to the drug. There are restricted distribution guidelines that must be followed before a patient can receive a prescription for isotretinoin. So isotretinoin is for severe acne. So certain guidelines that the patient has to abide by is that making sure that they're not going to get pregnant or trying to get pregnant. So they request a pregnancy test prior just to make sure that the patient's not pregnant. Even with males, males have to abide by this too because it could deform the semen as well. So, either female or male, this iPledge program is for isotretinoin. Just remember isotretinoin iPledge. And that's mainly because it causes severe birth defects. They want to keep track and make sure that, you know, that does not happen. Drug abuse and monitoring programs. In 2010, the National Drug Control Strategy was implement was implemented uh, because of the surge of prescription drug abuse and heroin addiction among adults. The National Institute on Drug Abuse lists more than 23 million over age 12 with an addiction to some type of illicit drug or alcohol. Yearly strategies are added, such as 2015 Integration Substance Abuse Awareness and Combating Domestic Drug Trafficking and Production. Partnerships through agencies such as DEA and the National Association of Boards of Pharmacies have also created national take back initiative programs and electronic reporting systems, such as the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, Interconnect Program. The National Association of Boards of Pharmacy and the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, Interconnect, developed by the National Boards of Pharmacy, is an interstate data system used to share prescription information and provide a more efficient means of combating drug diversion and drug abuse nationwide. To date, there are more than 49 states and territories participating in this program. So this just mainly keeps track of um, any drug diversion, or if they're trying to get more controlled substances in different pharmacies. Um, these pharmacies are able to talk to each other uh, because of that NABP, PDNP interconnect. Tech alert. As a technician, it is important to be aware of any signs of abuse, fraud, or discrepancies when processing a prescription and report any suspicious activity to the pharmacist. The special programs listed previously are not all inclusive. These are examples of the most common programs found in either the hospitals or retail settings. When I started my first job as a technician at which was Eckerd's CVS now, but had an individual come in and you could tell it was a forged script, the way the writing was, how it was written, whatever. So I took it to the pharmacist and we called the cops. We're just there waiting for the cops to come. Of course, the cops will come for another 30, 45 minutes. So we're waiting. So the patient comes in 30 minutes after, waiting to see if we filled it or not. And the pharmacist had let him know that we had to call the doctor just to verify some stuff. And he kind of was like, had to kind of figure out we were on to him. And so we asked him to wait around. He was like, "Oh no, I won't wait around. Just come back later." So he walked out, and by the time he was walking out, he started running, and the cops come. So we didn't get a chance to catch him, but I mean, we got the forged copy of the prescription. So we really have to be, very observant as to the normal prescriptions that come through on a regular basis and distinguish between a forge and a and a real prescription and how they're written. So we really have to get used to how the doctor writes, because you'll have a lot of prescriptions from the same doctor, coming in from the same town. And, with bigger towns or cities, um, you have to kind of get used to those different doctors, um, how they write and whatnot. A lot of the times now is they send this, uh, what is called e-prescribing, where they send the prescription online. You're able to pull it up online, see the directions and everything else, everything that's needed and whatnot, and you can input all that from online. So it's kind of made it uh, safer, I guess, or for less people to try to forge a prescription. But it'll happen. It'll happen. Pharmacy sites, brick and mortar and mail order pharmacies. The term brick and mortar refers to a building such as a retail pharmacy. Common practice is to mail medications through the post office or other authorized mailing system. This option has become even more accessible to patients because of introduction of online pharmacies and mail order pharmacies. Rules govern the way in which drugs are mailed. Prescription drugs can be mailed only by DEA registered entities. So you have to have, I believe, a 224 or 225. to be a mail order. Online pharmacies or e-pharmacies. In the 1990s, e-pharmacies began to appear on the internet, which led to the opportunity for drugs to be ordered illegally. In addition, consumers could be defrauded because some e-pharmacies charged credit cards but did not mail the drugs ordered. The NABP began to accredit sites in 1999 to allow consumers to distinguish between legal and illegal sites. The label Verified Internet Pharmacy Practice Sites, or VIPPS, um, indicates to the public that the website from which they are ordering drugs is both legitimate and licensed. I believe that's one of your questions as far as your homework. When linking to a pharmacy internet site, the customer should click on the label for authentication. At this time, VIPPS is a voluntary accreditation. Although verification done by the NABP, the organization does not regulate the sites. Instead, their websites are regulated by the state in which the pharmacy is physically located, along with federal guidelines. E-pharmacies have the same regulations as retail and mail order pharmacies with regard to dispensing of out-of-state pharmacy locations, and they are also required to adhere to HIPAA regulations. Ordering medications by the internet has many advantages, including ease of ordering, lower prices, and easy accessibility to online information, which lessens the wait time when trying to ask a pharmacist for information. However, um, identifying illegal pharmacies is a constant struggle for both state and federal agencies. If a suspicious e-pharmacy is found, it should be reported to the NABP. If the wrong medication or label is dispensed, this should be reported to the State Board of Pharmacy. Signs that pharmacy sites probably is illegal include the following: dispensing medications without having the customer mail in the prescription, faxing a prescription that cannot be confirmed as a valid prescription, dispensing medications on completion of questionnaire, not having pre-existing examination or patient prescribing relationship, and inability to contact a pharmacist at the website for consultation. All right. OSHA, Occupational Safety, Health, and Administration. We usually find these in hospitals, these groups here. The purpose of OSHA is to make the workplace safe for employees. Box 2.10 presents an outline of common safety and health topics. Safe workplace involves having safe equipment and materials, being able to safely perform tasks, and ensuring the policies and procedures of a company, including pharmacies, are safe. OSHA requires safety data sheets, information on all potentially dangerous chemicals used in the workplace. So dealing with OSHA, main things you want to deal with, or it looks at, is hazardous chemicals, and there are safety data sheets. Say we drop a chemo medication, and it's glass and it breaks. These safety data sheets will allow for us, gives us information as to how to clean up the mess. So anytime you're thinking of OSHA, think of, put that together with safety data sheets and hazardous chemicals or chemo medications. Think of safety, Um, yeah, safety in the workplace from hazardous chemicals. Talk about safety data sheets. Oh, yeah. Almost all chemicals can be dangerous if ingested or spilled. In all workplaces, including pharmacies, all chemicals must have a safety data sheet on file, which is a short SDS, or SDS must be available electronically through a database. Usually, working in the hospitals, you'll have to renew this, making sure that you have read certain requirements. Being an employee, you have to know what safety data sheets, where to find the safety data sheets or whatnot. So we do that annually. The binders are normally bright yellow and black. The information on the sheets include the storage requirements, handling procedures, and actions to take if the chemical is spilled, sprayed into the eyes, or comes in contact with the skin. It is important to know where the binder database is kept and to ensure that every chemical has a sheet on file. For example, phenol is a dangerous antiseptic agent often used in nerve blocks. It is stored in many institutional pharmacies. If it is spilled, it is important not to breathe in the fumes, but to contain the spill as quickly as possible and call the appropriate department for cleanup. Normally, environmental services in the hospital will respond and handle the cleanup. It is extremely easy to get SDS information to protect the employees who will handle the agent. The phone number is always given by the manufacturer, who is required by law to distribute the information to the requesting party within 24 hours. Usually, the manufacturer faxes that safety data sheet directly to the business. All right. So again, OSHA safety data sheets dealing with hazardous chemicals, chemo meds, and dealing with safety. The Joint Commission, another group. The mission is to improve the safety and quality of the care via accreditation of healthcare organizations. Areas of concern include how look-alike, sound-alike drugs are identified. Kind of looked at that with tall man lettering. How communication, allergy notifications, conflicting prescriptions, verbal orders, and other areas that may create an avenue for errors that are handled. So pretty much the Joint Commission is dealing with the errors that happen in the pharmacy or in the hospital setting. Um, in 1951, several medical associations created the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Organization, also known as JCO, um, as an independent nonprofit organization that voluntarily accredited hospitals. In 1959, Canada withdrew from JCO to form its own accrediting organization. It was not until 1964 that JCO began to charge for its surveys. The following year, hospitals were required to be accredited to participate in the Medicare and Medicaid programs. Over the following years, JCO expanded its range of compliances over hospitals and institutions. In 2007, JCO changed its branding to the Joint Commission. TJC meets 3 times annually and has 32 voting board members, consisting of physicians, administrators, nurses, employers, a labor representative, health plan leaders, quality experts, ethicists, educators, and consumer advocates. The Joint Commission credits more than 20,000 healthcare organizations and programs throughout the United States, including 9,500 hospitals, and home care facilities. Organizations must be surveyed at least every 3 years. Once accredited, the organization may display the Joint Commission seal of approval. Ratings of all institutions can be found on the organization's website. So mainly, it's just making sure they're functioning correctly, they're documenting correctly, um, taking care of any kind of mishaps or misfills or whatnot. Um, you'll hear if you're working in the hospital setting or institutional setting. We try to be um, proactive in making sure that our work is done diligently, making sure that hospital is running smoothly or whatnot. But you will know when the Joint Commission shows up because the upper people, the people above us, the leaders, will want us to make sure that we have our documents correct, making sure um, everything's just running smoothly. So you'll know when if you're working in the hospital setting, you'll get a warning before they come. Let's see. Legal standards. State law differs by state. Liabilities, negligence or tort, mistakes are made for many reasons. Considering purchasing malpractice insurance, laws change regularly. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all read that part. It deals with a lot of board of pharmacy, certain types of certain type ethics of as to how we should abide by each of these laws. And just remember that the most strict law is going to be the law that we need to go by. There's two different types of law. Ethics in the workplace. I'll let you read that. And I will quit talking for a little bit. Stop recording. Yes, ma'am.